Hello everyone! I went to see Dune this past weekend. I kind of wanted to make it an opening Friday thing, but then I realized I don't really remember what happened in the first part that well. So I sat myself down, did a refresher, and took some notes. And the first movie was still very good. I guess I had the same thoughts as I had the first time around because nothing new really stood out. It was still a very beautiful movie with great performances, beautiful score, with maybe minor pacing issues towards the end mostly. I was ready to see part 2, all brushed up on the lore and with the visuals still fresh in my mind. And boy oh boy, was it a treat! I know that Dune can get a bit of a cult following, but I am super happy to report that as a casual viewer, or maybe because I'm a casual viewer, part 2 is nothing short of an amazing cinematic experience. It will leave you wanting more, and that's saying something because it's even longer than part 1. This time bending might be due to some pacing differences in both films. The 2021 movie gave us more continuous, settled timeline. It felt like we're watching the same story throughout. Sure, we jumped between planets and perspectives a little bit, but the tone was fairly consistent. In part 2 we have more sections, which I'm super fine with. It's still the same story of course, and I think Denis Villeneuve is a brilliant storyteller. I would just say the format of the story is a little bit different this time around. And I think it works. Going into the movie, you can expect it to grab your attention and never let you go until the very end of it. When it comes to the cinematography, I was even more blown away this time around. The Dune movies are just so visceral, and they have been from the very start, but it's even more visible now. It doesn't feel like we're traveling through just movie sets dressed for the scenes. We're actually getting to know Arrakis as a character in the story, and our task is made so easy by the director every step of the way. We have magnificent shots of the desert, the landscapes, the beauty of it, but we also see the small details of the Fremen people interacting with their own world, and it makes the world so realistic. I don't want to say too much about other locations yet, but we also see how well they fulfill their narrative roles. In general, discovering different worlds and environments is one of the bigger joys of Dune, and I'm glad we got to do it again. But exceptional set designs and cinematography were just part of the experience. Everyone in that crew brought their A-game. The costumes were stunning, especially for Lady Jessica and the Harkonnen sections, and of course Florence Pugh, but I'm a little biased here. The score was a skillful expansion of the Part 1 soundtrack, bringing back all the same musical themes, but giving us even more and elevating it. And now, I'm not a sound expert by any means, but the one thing that stood out to me during the screening was sound design. I can't describe it well, but everything was just so juicy and well produced. All the sound effects were tickling my ears just the right way. I know it's a part of movie production that often goes unnoticed, or it gets noticed for the wrong reasons, by me as well, as I am, again, not a sound expert, but I was super happy to realize that I'm actively enjoying the sounds separately from the score. And of course, performances. I was a little bit sad to see my favorite person go. But the cast, I don't know what sort of sorcery Denis Villeneuve did on that set, but I think every single actor and actress delivered their very best. From the smallest parts to the top listing, not only is everyone well suited to the role, but they also seem to be in competition with one another and want to outact each other. I'm half joking, but I think you could just easily give half of the Oscar nominations to the Dune cast and it would hold up. If I had to pinpoint one though, it would be surprisingly Timothée Chalamet. I say surprisingly because first, it's not easy being the lead of a 3-hour-long sci-fi savior story. And second, very often a role like that gets overshadowed by some great supporting character stealing people's hearts. And I guess it almost happened this time around as well. I definitely think Rebecca Ferguson and Javier Bardem are worth mentioning as scene stealers, but I think Timothy is just everything you want Paul Atreides to be. I'm definitely super impressed by that performance, and hopefully we see more of that great acting if Dune Messiah gets made. Do I have any criticism? Apart from that, I think most problems disappear when you're faced with this mind-blowing, almost overwhelming movie experience. I am actually very keen to see the movie at home because I think then more of the potential flaws can come out, but I am also not very keen to look for them too closely. I think if you like sci-fi and you enjoyed the first Dune movie, you will definitely like this one even more, and I would recommend catching it in theaters while you still can. Alright, now on to spoilers. First of all, I am so excited about the Gidi Prime scenes. I'm sure you've heard by now how they used infrared technology to film those scenes to achieve those really high contrast and this weird translucent look to the skin, and I think it was just so good. When we open the scene with Austin Butler's character just being an absolute menace, and then we go on into this gladiator fight, it's both terrifying and very intriguing. My mind immediately jumped into a Mad Max Fury Road comparison, but I think it was more of a flattering resemblance than actual inspiration. Speaking of Austin Butler, I was actually in awe of how much physicality he brought into the role. Yes, the hair and makeup were amazing and they did a lot to make him seem outwardly and threatening, but him embodying the character was just something that maybe I did not expect. I was fearing for everyone around him constantly, that's how unpredictable he was. This also relates to what I said in the beginning about the movie having sections. They do feel consistent but different at the same time. We open with Paul and Jessica with the Fremen, getting to know them, finding their place in the new world. And this part almost seems hopeful. The Chani-Paul romance, the training montage, so to speak, Stilgar dropping some of the only funny lines in the movie, and boy was Javier Bardem funny. Sure, it was broken up by Jessica being this little creepy mastermind, but it almost had the edge of action-adventure to it. We then go onto the Gidi Prime birthday bash scenes, and Bene Gesserit scheming in between, which has a more sinister vibe to it, definitely. And finally, we close it off with what I think was the best part of the movie. We have the new Harkonnen rule, we have the siege attack, and that's where all the acting chops come out for me. The tension is thick, and we see all the funny haha parts from before just not being funny haha anymore. I think from the big trip to the south where Paul had his Messiah monologue up until the end of the movie, I was constantly at the edge of my seat, admiring what was in front of me. The way Javier Bardem's character got really scary in his fanatical faith, and how Paul finally gave in to the vision of power, how Chani had to suffer silently. I don't even think she has any lines in the last part, but we can see everything she feels so clearly in her face, like really well done. I know I'm raving now, but it was really good. And as a side note, I think it was that good because of the setup of part 1. We got to know the house dynamics, the mechanics of the universe, how people operate in the world. I know there's a lot of book things that have not been mentioned, and yes, I fell down the rabbit hole of lore, but I think the things we see in the movie are pretty clear and they build a good base that we can expand upon. If there's anything at all that I didn't like, it's maybe some of the vision and baby stuff. I can't quite put my finger on what was so jarring about them, but I felt in several moments that it's something that we either don't need to see right now or something we just don't need to see in general. Especially when Lady Jessica was spreading her influence in the south. It felt like the concept was pretty straightforward and we maybe didn't need that much explanation? Question mark? It's absolutely minor things though, and I still really enjoyed the movie. To sum it all up, I had the best time seeing Dune Part 2 in the movies, and it was all you want from a grand movie experience. There's plot twists, there's action scenes, beautiful shots and amazing acting. You definitely won't regret going to a movie theatre. I almost feel like it's a film that shines more on the big screen. And if it helps making Dune Messiah a reality, better for us all. Thank you so much for watching, and let me know in the comments what you thought about Dune. Like and subscribe to support the channel, and I'll catch you next time. See ya!